An extraordinary scene today as American sailors were rescued off their own ship. As the Navy announced, at least 93 crew members of the U.S.S. Theodore Roosevelt tested positive for the coronavirus, with hundreds of results still pending. The Secretary of the Navy said about a quarter of the 4,000 crew members have been tested so far. Tonight, the carrier is docked in Guam. About half the nuclear-powered ship's crew has been removed, and that emergency evacuation only came after Roosevelt's captain raised an alarm in a remarkable and brave four-page letter to his Navy superiors, laying out reasons for wanting to evacuate the majority of his crew, saying, "We are not at war. Sailors do not need to die. If we do not act now, we are failing to properly take care of our most trusted asset, our sailors." Joining me now is David Larder. He's a naval warfare reporter at Defense News. He's been covering the story. He's written several articles about the Roosevelt and the military response to the coronavirus. First, tell me a little bit about this ship, David, and how a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the Pacific first was exposed to the virus.
Well, it's a very big ship, as anybody that can look at the pictures of the carrier knows. It's a crew of about 5,000 sailors, a little shy of that, maybe about 4,800. And how they got exposed is still kind of a mystery. They were in port in Vietnam about 15 days before the first case popped. But it's unclear if that's where they picked up the virus or if any number of aircraft that fly on and off an aircraft from shore, bringing supplies, bringing new crew members, any number of ways that the virus could have gotten on board. But I think the most important point is, and I think the captain makes it in this letter, is that the environment that exists on those ships, sailors in very close quarters, they sleep very close together, they work in very close quarters, they, their showering facilities are all very close quarters. It's a very conducive environment for a virus.
Yeah, just based on the numbers, it sounds like it just has torn through that ship, which is not surprising. I mean, like a prison or a nursing home or, a ship, like those are all very close quarters. They're all contained environments with a lot of reprocessed air. The letter is really quite a document. Explain the context for it in some ways for people that don't know, like how sort of brave it was for this captain to raise the alarm in the way he did.
I think there's no doubt about that, Chris, right? I think they've anybody that follows the Navy understands that what that captain did was really put his career on the line. I think that that the Navy is very much for keeping things inside the lifelines and using the chain of command like the military, like any branch of the military would be. And the fact that this got out is highly embarrassing to the Navy, and there's no question about that. But it's certainly a letter that was written to be heard. And I think that certainly the CNO in comments today, the Chief of Naval Operations, that's the head officer in the Navy, acknowledged that there could have been a communication breakdown between higher headquarters and what was going on that ship. So it was a remarkably brave letter to put it in such stark terms. You've said it a couple times now that, putting it in the terms that sailors could die if no action is taken.
So you've got, this is one of, what are there, 11, I think, in the fleet in terms of nuclear aircraft carriers. And obviously there's a bunch of other ships. There are a bunch of bases around the world where people are in fairly close quarters, not quite as close maybe as an aircraft carrier. From the beginning, at the beginning of this, there was this reporting that Defense Secretary Esper warned commanders not to surprise Trump on coronavirus. But you've got to think this is a real present threat throughout the entire U.S. armed forces at this point.
Chris, I've written a little bit about this, and I think one of the problems that the military is facing is a problem of its own culture. And the higher echelons don't want to micromanage or dictate to lower level commanders to sort of, use what I think somebody referred to as a 5,000 foot screwdriver to try to, finagle how individual commanders run their commands. But I think as the Bill Gates piece that you've been citing mentions, that everyone's facing a common threat here. There's no unique circumstance. The virus is going to infect who it infects. And we know that if you're in close quarters on a ship, sleeping close to each other, and somebody has the virus, you're probably going to spread that to the person near you through coughing or through any other, so it's remarkable to me that their instinct to punt to the lower echelons on how you manage your command is actually working against it, at least in this case.
Yeah, that is a fascinating institutional insight. David Larder, who's been reporting on this. Great, thanks.